Yeah, this is Blacklight here, and I'm stuck on a series of teachings, or you can say it could be some lessons in my life that I can share with others. And I'm talking about the black light who sat in the church. I was going to call it, in my last videos, I had various names: the black light who, uh, or the spook who sat by the door, and the black light who sat by the door. But as you see in the title, it's the black light who sat by the door. And if you're just tuning in to my channels and whatever, uh, my theme throughout all my videos is the elders uh, in the community and our life experiences that we can share with the young. And that way we don't have to go back in history and ancient history, because if you're talking about Jesus 2,000 years ago, uh, we wasn't there. So we speculating on and relying on someone else's words, such as the Bible and Quran and 1,400 years ago, and other books, spiritual books. But if you be fortunate enough to go through the Hindu and the Buddha and various other types of what they call religion, they all have a common theme, and that's to treat your fellow man as you want to be treated, and to share with your fellow man, and don't kill your fellow man except in self-defense. And it all, has a universal law involved in it. And we call that morals and spiritual law and whatever. So I was talking about working here at the Community Congregational Church in Lathrop Village, uh, Southfield, Michigan. Lathrop Village is like Highland Park is to Detroit. Uh, Southfield encompasses Lathrop Village, but Lathrop Village is a city, you know. And I started working there around late 80, but I wasn't a permanent worker. I was doing that, I say 89, 88. I started working at Community Congregational Church. I was going to school. I was going to Wayne County Community College, and I also had a part-time temporary uh, temp staff position where you get you work by the day labor type situation. And I'm gonna tell you how that happened. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what people say about Islam, and especially the Nation of Islam, and our thoughts and focus. You know, I heard Minister Farrakhan say that Islam is not no cookie cutting religion, you know. And I don't want to be like anybody else. I'm a very individualistic type person. Uh, I'm like a lone wolf, you know. Uh, I never had problems making friends, you know. Uh, I'm an only child only because my brother died when I was about 6 months of heart uh, problems, bronchial problems, and he was 4 years old when he died. He was my older brother, and after me, my mother had um, no other children, and but she didn't spoil me. And her and my father, they were like a tag team match. They didn't argue about how to raise me, like mothers do today. They don't want the father to be too hard on the son and all like that. And they don't want the father to raise the children. And but my father, he ran his household. He was the master of his house. And but my mother, she wouldn't wait on my father to come and give me a whooping, because she said that I might forget about what I done. So she give me a whooping, then she tell my old man, and he come in and give me a whooping. But my father, he was cool, man. He was a cool guy. He's deceased. He died in 2011. Uh, and my mother's still living. She's 90 years old. And we have long livers on life on both my father's side of the family and my mother's side of the family. And so when I went to work at this church, it was part-time, and I was going to school. Then they liked the way I worked. They had a Caucasian custodian there, and he was a drunkard. So he went on a drunk spree, a binge or whatever you call them, and they allowed me to fill in for him for a couple of days, and they were so impressed with the way I worked, and uh, so they had to find a way to fire him. They let him fire himself, and so when he came back to work, he worked for a little while, then he went on a binge or whatever you call that, and you know they got rid of him and called me back to work, and that was around in 91, 92, and I think I was over at Temple Number 1 in Highland Park with Supreme Minister John Muhammad. Previous to that, I was with their brother John Muhammad. And I'm saying John, like spelling it J-A-M, I believe. And uh, then I heard his brother talk, John Muhammad, and he was the youngest brother of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so I was living on the east side on the Kirby, not too far from one of the temples. I think they had a temple on Farnsworth or Frederick, right in the same vicinity uh, where I was living, or say domiciling. I'd be listening to this brother Taza Doc. And so uh, I got to working at this community congregational church. This is where I learned exactly how the Caucasian think, because Lathrop Village was a very influential uh, community. These millionaire Lathrop was founded by a Caucasian woman who was a millionaire, who was racist or a white supremacist, you know. And for me to work at this church was a phenomenal thing in Detroit, or in the metropolitan area. So when I got in there, you know, they was impressed with my mannerisms, my demeanor, and the way, and my workmanship, the way I worked. And that was an equalizer. I was a hard worker, you know. Some brothers wouldn't do the job that I did. A lot of them wouldn't do the job cleaning up after white folks. But I was like Sidney Poitier. I made them call me Mr. Omar. You know, never been afraid of white people. See, I wasn't brought up in the church or nothing like that. I told you that my mother, when she was carrying me, she was listening to the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now this is her old MGT. It says #1 Michigan. You can see it's old. You know. Her name was Sister Ali. That's a man's name, but it's also an Arab name or original name. See, most people don't think that Arab is a black man's language. Arabic is a black man's language, or Arab is a black man. I got some books that we're going to use as reference to show you that we were Arabs. Also, we still are Arabs. But right now, I don't want to get into that because that's a long teaching. So before we run out of time, because I got a 15-minute time slot, so I'm going to put an extension onto this talk. I'm quite sure you'll be interested in to know all what I've learned at this church, Community Congregational Church in Lathrop Village, Michigan. So this is Black Light Out, and I'm going to come right back. Fade to black.